Hey guys, welcome to another episode. I'm Alex Fernandez and I'm here today with Jaime Derringer, founder of Design Milk. Hey Jamie, pleasure to have you here.
Hi, it's great to be here.
Hey guys, welcome to another show, the best architecture podcast. Every Sunday we will have new interviews, so don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you. See you soon.
Jamie, tell us a little bit more about yourself. Who is Jaime Derringer?
Who is Jaime Derringer? Great question. Isn't that the purpose of life, is finding out who we are? I am an artist, I'm a musician, I'm a mom. I founded an online magazine called Design Milk. I co-created a podcast called Clever. Yeah, a lot of different things. So there's a lot to talk about here.
Great, awesome. I think, like I said, you're the founder of Design Milk, one of the most famous websites about architecture designs in the world. And how was the beginning of this company? And tell us a little bit more.
Sure. So I started Design Milk in 2006, right around the time when blogging, it was right before blogging kind of blew up. And I was really the story is I was looking for a couch for my townhouse, and I was all over the internet looking for a modern couch, which back in 2006 wasn't as easy to find it as it is today. Everything was still a little bit more traditional, but I knew my style was modern. And when I started to do a deep dive on furniture and decor and art and all of these things on the internet, I really felt compelled to share all of the cool things that I was finding. And a blogging platform was just the perfect place for me to do that. And it was a very small community back then. So I made friends with a lot of the other people who were blogging about design and architecture and creativity in the home. So it was a really, really great time.
And you created all of this much more before the Instagram, Facebook. You started the company in 2006. And how was this beginning? It was just you and you got a team.
So in the beginning, it was just me, and it was not created. I wasn't setting out to create a business. That happened a little bit later. Once it started to gain some traction, and I started to get readers. And then someone emailed me and said, "Can I put my banner ad on your blog as an advertisement?" And then, of course, the light bulb went off, and I was like, "Oh, this could maybe be a business. Maybe I could make some money." And so it was a side hustle for a while, until 2009, when I quit my day job to make Design Milk my full-time job. And it wasn't until 2011, when I found out that I was pregnant, that I hired a couple of people to help me. So it was really just me up until 2011.
Awesome. And now how is the size of the company now? How many workers do you have there?
So I no longer am with Design Milk. So just to be clear, I left last March. I sold it in 2019, and I
Mm-hmm.
spent 3 years working on it, and then left last March. So um, initially it was me and maybe two or three other people. And by the time we sold it, it was really only about 6 people. So it didn't grow exponentially in terms of company size. It really just grew exponentially in terms of readership and reach, which was really great. I mean, we could do so much with a small team. We were very flexible and agile, and we could kind of turn and change direction really quickly, which is what I love about working with a small team.
Awesome. And now what are you doing now? What you spending your time now?
Yeah, great question. All kinds of different things. So when I left last year, I had already been about a year into my curiosity really lies in technology and innovation and what's next in the future. So I'm kind of a futurist. So I started dabbling in NFTs because I'm an artist. And so that seemed like a natural fit. I started learning about all of these new technologies that were happening, and did a deep dive. And so I spent a lot of time last year just learning and meeting people and networking and having conversations about what's going to be happening over the course of the next 5 to 10 years. And then I started helping an online or an NFT art gallery called Tonic, tonic.xyz. I started helping them grow community and launch that gallery. So I spent 6 months full time with Tonic launching that. And then in February, I departed. And since then, I'm back in my, in my deep dives, learning so much more about Web3 and AI, and really understanding how those are going to impact everything from design to art to creativity to how we interact with each other. So there's a lot going on at the moment. It's really exciting.
Yes, yes, it is. About Web3, I think it will be awesome to discuss about it because it's a very new thing that coming, and no one knows exactly what it is. But I would like to hear from you. How can you how can you describe for the people that are watching us the Web3, what it is, this?
Well, I think the best way to do it is to think of the internet as having different stages, kind of like software. I mean, I guess technically it's software in a sense, right? So we started out in the very early days of the internet, which was the original web, the AOL days, when every website had a username and a password, and you had to log in, and it was very archaic. And then we moved into what we're kind of in at the end of right now, which is Web 2. And Web 2 is more focused on social. So it's all about social media,
Yeah.
social sharing. And you also log into websites using anything from Facebook to Google to, whatever. And so now we're transitioning to Web 3, where what I think will probably happen, and of course I don't know because it's all so new, is that we'll be relying possibly on blockchain technology to power our interactions. And so, or credentials, right? Web credentials, which is basically just like a different way of knowing who you are and recognizing who you are. And it's possible that it'll be wallet based. It's possible it will be browser based or app based. We're not really sure. All those technologies are being developed right now, and who knows who will win, right, in the end.
Yes.
So we'll see a lot of transition, I think, over the next 5 years.
Yeah, for sure. I agree totally. And what do you
really
think?
just to be clear too, I don't want to confuse anybody. I don't think people need to know the ins and outs of how these things work either, because honestly, like, I don't know how my email gets sent from me to you. There is just some magic thing that happens in the background. And that's really what this Web3 technology and blockchain stuff is. I feel like people think they need to know all the technicalities, but like you don't know how your TV like actually works and how you get Netflix and all that. So I just want people to not feel like they need to like go back to school and learn all of these things, because there will be like an easy interface to figure out how to do all of these things.
Yes, totally. And what do you think we need to do to be prepared to this new era? So what do you think will be the internet there? So we will have more, I don't know, more options, more opportunities.
I think one of the things that's really interesting about the idea of Web3 is that users will own their data, which is what I hope will happen. This is an optimistic view, is that like right now, in order for me to have an account, I need a username, a password, and I have to opt in to all of these things like Facebook. There's these huge terms, and they have all of this security data. Ideally, Web3 would put all of our data back in our own hands so that I can control who sees and accesses my data, and I can possibly share in the advertising revenue of that. I mean, that's a very idealistic way of looking at it, but that's what I hope will be able to happen, so that I can control what I see, who has my information, where it's being shared, who it's being shared with. And I think that could be a really empowering and like transformational way that we interact online.
Sure. And I agree totally. And I think we will have, together with the Web3, we'll now have the metaverse and all of these things. And I'm showing a lot of opportunities for architects, designers, and because you don't have you have freedom to use your creativity and make anything you want. So how do you see this come from? How do you see the opportunities on metaverse for architects, designers?
Yeah, so now we're seeing all of the things that are happening. We're seeing a lot of this in the news. Obviously, AI is like the big boom right now, as you know, NFTs were maybe 2 years ago. Now it's this
Yeah.
AI gold rush. And metaverse, of course, was in the past year. So these are all technologies that I think eventually are going to all come together in some
Mhm.
way. Metaverse, I feel like the immersive technology is starting to evolve, and we're starting to get things like Apple's headset, spatial computing, things like that. But the true metaverse that, is something that would be fully immersive for all of us that we can engage in on a daily basis is many, many years off. I think we're
Mhm.
going to be seeing VR, AR becoming much more of a daily or more regular experience. So that's really augmenting or enhancing our reality instead of replacing it. And I think that metaverse, what I think is really interesting about immersive experiences is that when you're thinking about design and architecture, I mean, this is virtual space. Who better to talk
Yes.
about or deal in virtual space than architects and designers? It makes so much sense. And that's why I've been so vocal about it over the past years, trying to get folks in our industry to understand that these technologies are going to be very, very impactful to their daily jobs. I mean, it's like going from blueprints to CAD. Making the transition to digital. Now we're making another transition into virtual or augmented. And so, I mean, I think that architects and designers need to understand how this technology will impact them, make sure that they're somewhat educated on what it is and how it will function. But I want to remove the fear, I think, because a lot of folks I've talked to are just scared that it's either going to replace them or they're going to have to learn all this new software. But really, in reality, there are younger folks that are coming up now in school or are, in high school right now who will learn all of these things, and that'll be their whole world. And so they'll be able to come onto these teams and make that transition, I think. So if anybody says that they're scared, I'd say, well, you can hire someone who's an expert in this to help you do what you need to do. You don't need to go back to school and learn all of these 3D or sorry, 4D, like Cinema
Yes.
4D programs. You can hire someone on your team, just like you hired a social media manager or you hired an assistant or whatnot. So I really feel like there's a ton of fear because, of course, the unknown is scary and change is really scary for people. But I really feel like this is not something to be scared of. It's something to be curious and optimistic and excited about. And when we're talking about immersive space, I think designers and architects need to get into it right now, because what we don't want is for coders and software engineers and people like Mark Zuckerberg determining what our virtual and augmented experiences feel and look like. Those people don't really have the training to understand how humans function and what their needs are. And if we are in these immersive environments, it's just like being in an immersive environment at home. You need things like plants, natural light, sounds, all of these things that designers and architects are really well versed in, and they should be working with a team of programmers to make these things much more inhabitable for us as human beings. So that's my metaverse spiel. Sorry, I didn't even get into AI. But I do want to say with AI, if we just transition to that, there's tons of fear around that because it's, widespread. It's not just
Yes.
impacting, our general environment. It's impacting everything from government to military to, our jobs, to how we function and how we interact online and who we're interacting with, right? We don't
Yes.
want to interact with robots. That just doesn't seem to make any sense. And so what I like to say about AI is I think it should be utilized as another tool in your toolbox. I don't think it should replace people, but if there is a job that can be replaced, then there needs to be other things created for people to do. And I think that there are, I mean, I don't know about you, but like, I'm pretty sure most people have more than enough work that they'd be happy to like train other people. And the great thing about AI is you can use it as a tool to either give you inspiration if you're a designer. You can use it to help do things that are complicated or not fun or annoying as an architect. So think about it as like almost your virtual assistant to really help you with the things that you don't want to do or take too much time to do. It's really a tool that will help make your life easier if you can figure out the optimal way to use it. And we're not really there yet. I think we have a couple more years to go before we really recognize its full potential.
Yes, sure. And like you say, the AI you can use to grow your company. You can use it like a tool to make better your projects, to improve your projects, and to improve your team. So there are many possibilities to use it, and you can use it for your own benefit. So you don't need to be afraid of that. And about the company Tonic, like that you say that you work at, it was related to metaverse, to Web3, right?
Yes, it's an NFT art gallery. So Tonic works with artists who are specifically working in the generative art space. Most of them using code to create art, which is really fascinating and exciting. So yes, it's Web3 NFTs. It's not metaverse.
Yes. Okay. Right. Awesome. And did you like this experience?
Oh yeah, it was great. I ended up being Tonic's first artist, which was really exciting for me and my art. But what I liked a lot about it, I mean, first of all, I learned so much more about Web3 and NFTs, and it was such a great community building experience, and I met so many great artists and creatives. And I think that what's really interesting too about NFTs and blockchain technology is the ability to have provenance for art or a product. So if you think about, let's say you have a Herman Miller chair or something, and it has you flip it over and you see that it's Herman Miller and you have a certificate of authenticity. The great thing is you can put that information on the blockchain that says you are the creator of this item. You can set royalties so that you would receive royalties every time that piece is purchased. So that's really great for artists, right? Because like I make a painting, I only get money the first time I sell it. I don't get money the second, third, or fourth time if it keeps going, right? So really wonderful for artists and creators. But I also think that it could be utilized in design and architecture to verify authenticity and to trace lineage, and to also help prevent knockoffs.
Yeah, sure. And it's incredible because I saw one company last year and at the boom of NFT that was selling a project, an architecture project as a NFT. So it's crazy to think about it, but it's the new era coming, and I think the idea was intelligent idea.
Yeah, and I think the thing about these technologies is that right now they're still very clunky. Getting a digital wallet, connecting it, there's some, it's a little confusing. And I think that it will be successful when it's as easy as, logging into Google or something like that. We need to get to the point where it's not difficult and you don't have to jump through a million hoops to figure out how to make it work.
Yeah, sure. And about the podcast, how long did you have been on the Clever, and how has been this experience?
I don't know how many years I did Clever, but I want to say 6, but I'm not exactly sure. So I met Amy Devers at a design conference in LA, and we sat down and immediately became fast friends and started talking about storytelling, which is something that we're both very passionate about. Amy's an incredibly curious person, so am I. So we started thinking like, why isn't anybody, interviewing people and getting the stories behind the products or the architecture or the things that surround us every day? And so that's how Clever was born. And so in the beginning, Amy and I hosted it together, and then eventually I moved behind the scenes to do the advertising and sales and development of the podcast. And then I left last April. And so Amy's been going solo and doing an awesome job with it. So I'm really, really happy.
Great, great. I didn't know about that you have gone about the podcast. How do you see this area, podcast area and marketing area for architects? In my vision, what I see is that we are slowly getting into. So I think another areas are more hard into that. So how do you see this?
Well, I mean, we're seeing right now that podcasting has become much more of, obviously, because we're on camera right now, like a video and
Yes.
audio experience, so that someone, if they want to, they can watch it, but if they don't, they can still listen to it. And I think that'll continue to evolve over time. I saw recently that somebody was developing like a live online radio, streaming interviews and such like 24/7. So we're almost redefining what it means to have a radio again. It's really an interesting time where things are moving very quickly. We went from audio to video very, very rapidly. I think that is probably because of TikTok and Reels and people wanting to have conversations and promote their podcast and have video on these social platforms so that they can, market the full podcasts and also spark conversation. Because when we started Clever, there was video, I think, on Instagram, but it was few and far between. And it was really expensive to create some sort of video and put the words to it and have the audio and all of that. Now it's like there's so many platforms that you can easily create a podcast. I mean, you can log into Substack and upload an MP3 and now you've got a podcast. It's democratized. I mean, that's what I love about it, though. I mean, I know there's a lot out there for people to digest, but I really do love that anyone can start something and talk about what they love, and it can become, their passion can become their job, because that's what happened to me in the early days of blogging.
Yes, awesome. And what do you, now that you have done the Design Milk and the Clever podcast, what do you expect for your future? Any projects?
Yeah, so right now I'm just doing a little bit of consulting, which has been really fun to work with. I have some friends and in different industries that have hired me to help them. I've done I'm doing some speaking, some of this kind of thing, podcasts, doing a little traveling. It's nice. It's part downtime and part work, which has been really nice for me. And I did take a couple of breaks where I was fully resting, which after 16 years of working so hard, it was very nice to have that time off. But I'm starting to get excited about ramping up and doing some new things. So at the moment, just consulting, but we'll see. I mean, I'm open to anything.
Awesome. And your consultings are about marketing. How is it?
Yeah, so I started doing consulting with social marketing, content, media, things like that. That's my, the majority of my background. But then I also started doing some advising for founders who are starting a new business. And I found that that's actually really awesome and I love it and it's very rewarding. So I'm hoping to do either more founder coaching or business coaching, and possibly get some more advisor positions with some startups.
Great. And after all of these years, all of these companies, do you have any insights to pass to the people, to tell the people, and an idea that you learned that you would like to share with us?
Oh my gosh. What do you think would be like, what is the majority of your listeners or watchers, are they architects?
Architects, yes. The majority,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah. Okay. So what have I learned that would be useful for architects? I mean, we did already talk a lot about metaverse and AI. But I do think that if you're in that industry, having conversations with everyone on your team about these new technologies and how they could impact the business is really important. There might be someone, on your team that you didn't realize was like really deep in Web3 or has been experimenting with AI and who is very knowledgeable about these topics. That you could have them, educate your team. So having open conversations and dialogue with everyone on the team, even if they're not, an architect, like, if you have a software division or help desk or, anybody might be in this or interested in taking it on. I think that most companies eventually will have someone soon to make rules and regulations around these things too, because I think AI, there's security issues. So thinking about how you want your company and your employees to use AI and having some sort of governing rules, around the use of that is probably going to be pretty important, especially for security reasons. And then being open instead of either closed off, afraid of change, or I'm too old for that, which I've actually said myself a number of times. But you're not. I mean, everybody can learn new things. And if you learn them with curiosity and openness and enthusiasm, and being optimistic about the future, that's when some really exciting things can happen.
Great, great. Yes. And we are almost finishing, but I would like to know before what question that I didn't do that you would like to answer.
Oh gosh, what you didn't ask me about. I don't know.
Any subject
Okay,
that,
can I ask you a question?
yeah, sure.
Okay. What was, I don't know if you're like an avid reader, but like I always like to know what recent book you've read that was very impactful.
I like a lot of biographies. I'm a reader, but all of the books that I read is about companies and marketing and a lot of biographies of great people. So the last two books that I read that was awesome. One was the biography of Elon Musk, that is incredible, and the another one is a book called Ponto de Inflexão. It's a Brazilian book about one of our billionaires here, and Flávio Augusto, his name, and it's incredible. This book tells us all of the how can I say, the principal points in his life that make his change all of her future. So it's awesome. It's awesome to learn about this and to know more about that. And what about you? What do you like to learn?
I went through a period of reading a lot of biographies and autobiographies, and I really do love a good nonfiction book. I think like reading about other people's stories is really important,
Yes.
because we're all human, and it's fascinating to find out how someone gets to, where they are in their lives, and they have so much wisdom that they can impart on you. And so every biography I've read, I've taken something away. Off the top of my head, the most recent book I read, well, I'm actually reading a book right now I really like. It's called Unreasonable Hospitality. And it is about a chef, or sorry, I think he's either a chef or a business manager for restaurants. He's in the restaurant industry.
Mhm.
And I know nothing about, I worked as a hostess for maybe a year, and that was like my first job ever. but never worked in a restaurant after that. So I don't know anything about the industry. So it's really interesting to see like how restaurants work and all of the process of that. But what I love about it is his restaurant became, I think, the top restaurant in the world. And he has so much wisdom about business and treating people well, treating employees well, treating guests well, how to serve, but also how to do it in a very innovative way and how you can apply those principles to business. And so I really am loving it right now. I'm only halfway through, but it's really great.
Awesome, incredible. I will search about it, and our conversation, it was incredible. I'm sure the people will love it, and it was a huge pleasure to have you here. I hope that we can talk again in the future.
Yeah, this was really fun. Thanks so much for having me.